Your child's been coughing for weeks, maybe even months. You've tried every cough syrup, every natural remedy, every humidifier trick that you found online. And your pediatrician's just saying it's viral or they'll grow out of it. But nothing has changed. That cough disrupts their sleep. It makes school impossible and it leaves your entire family exhausted. But deep down, you're asking, why won't this just stop? And this is exactly what most doctors miss is that a chronic cough isn't just about the lungs. It's about the nervous system that controls them. So I want to tell you about a little kiddo named Bryce. So Bryce's mom came to us completely exhausted, and she told us her immune system felt weak from day one. She picked up every cold, every virus, and with every infection came a cough that would last 2 to 3 weeks. They were getting healthy maybe 1 week per month, right? Symptoms would go away enough for the next sickness to come about. The sleep disruption was crushing the entire family. And mom could count on one hand how many times that little Bryce actually slept through the night within those first few years of life. And they had tried everything. They had tried medications and supplements and air purifiers and tracking every environmental trigger known to man. But the cough kept coming back. But what Bryce's family discovered wasn't in her lungs. It was in the nervous system. And so I want to show you exactly why that matters for chronic illness, chronic sickness. Because if your child's been coughing for 3, 4 weeks or longer, this is absolutely the missing piece that no one is talking about. So, first, let's talk about what a chronic cough actually is. Now, medically, it's defined based on duration. So, acute cough is under 3 weeks. Subacute is 3 to 8 weeks, but a chronic cough is 8 weeks or longer in adults and 4 weeks or longer in children. And this is one of the top reasons that parents will visit healthcare providers. And this is what's shocking because in most cases, all the tests they come back normal. Doctors have no answers and they tell you to wait it out, to try another medication, or just to manage the symptoms, or wait till they grow out of it. But what if the tests are looking in the wrong place? You see, a chronic cough itself isn't necessarily a disease, it's a symptom of other conditions. And while conventional medicine focuses on identifying which condition is causing the cough, they're missing something critical along the way. Why does your child develop these conditions in the first place? Now, that's the question that we need to answer first because the root cause often began before you even noticed the cough, sometimes even before birth. And that's why we look at the nervous system. And this is exactly where everything changes. So let me explain how this actually works. Now, a normal cough reflex is actually controlled by the vagus nerve and the brainstem. It senses irritation and then it triggers coordinated muscle responses to be able to clear the airway. That's actually normal. It's actually healthy. It's a positive immune response. But when that coughing becomes chronic, when it starts lasting for weeks or months, it's actually signaling that your child's nervous system isn't regulating the respiratory function, the mucus production, and the inflammatory responses properly anymore. So you think about it like this: the vagus nerve is like the master control cable for the entire respiratory system, like the lungs, the breathing, the trachea, like all that stuff. It controls the cough reflex. So mucus production and the consistency and the airway tone. So whether the airways are actually restricted or relaxed, and the inflammatory response within that respiratory tract. Now, when stress and subluxation compresses the vagus nerve at the upper neck, the upper cervical level, it creates a hypersensitive cough reflex. So your child's body starts to overreact to normal natural irritation. It triggers excessive mucus production and poor inflammation control and weakened immune system coordination. And this is the critical part that everybody misses completely. It's not just about the vagus nerve in isolation. It's what happens when the nervous system gets stuck in the wrong gear. Now, at Haven Family Chiropractic and across our PX Docs network, we use this analogy all the time. because your child's nervous system and the autonomic nervous system specifically is like a car with a gas pedal and a brake pedal. So our sympathetic nervous system, the fight or flight stressed outside, now that's the gas pedal. It's our fight, flight, survival mode. Now the parasympathetic is the brake pedal. That's the rest, digest, grow, heal, recover mode. Now when stress subluxation sets in, it causes dysautonomia. It's like when our gas pedal is stuck down and the parking brake or the brake pedal in general just won't work. Your child ends up getting stuck in sympathetic dominance, a chronic fight or flight survival mode. And when that happens, everything downstream breaks down. You see, sympathetic dominance actually creates lung dysfunction, or respiratory dysfunction through airway constriction. So the smooth muscles they tighten, it's reducing our airflow. Stressed out states in the body actually creates inflammatory overreactions. It creates a pro-inflammatory environment in the airway within the body. So it's triggering excessive mucus, that thick, difficult to clear, post-nasal drip type stuff. And it suppresses our immune function, making them more susceptible to respiratory infections and others along the way. And it prevents proper sleep and proper healing because the body just can't repair itself in the way that it's designed. So you're not just dealing with a cough, you're dealing with a nervous system that can't get out of stress mode long enough to actually heal. And the only way to break this cycle is to address the nervous system. So remove the stress and the subluxation, restore vagus nerve function, and shift from sympathetic dominance to balanced regulation. Now, here's the depth that I need you to understand because the chronic cough doesn't start when you first notice it. It's often the final symptom in what we call the perfect storm, that neurological cascade that began long before, sometimes even before birth. This is why some children develop a chronic cough while others don't. It's not the cause, it's the accumulation of neurological stress that's overwhelming your child's system, the respiratory, the immune, the gut, and everything else. So the perfect storm actually starts in the womb. Because when mothers experience chronic stress during pregnancy, there's elevated cortisol that crosses the placenta and it affects the developing nervous system. And research shows that prenatal stress can actually alter the development of the nervous system, creating a predisposition to dysregulation, affecting their immune system programming, and setting the stage for that sympathetic dominance from birth. The next step in our perfect storm cascade is birth trauma. Because even normal births apply significant force to a baby's head, neck, whole body. And when interventions are needed, like with a C section, with forceps, with vacuums, those forces increase dramatically. The upper neck, the upper cervical spine is incredibly vulnerable during birth. This is where our brainstem connects to the spinal cord. This is where the vagus nerve exits from the skull, and where structures that control breathing, our heart rate, our digestion are all located. Now, birth trauma can cause upper cervical subluxation. When subluxation occurs at birth, it affects the vagus nerve and its ability to function. It impacts our phrenic nerve function that actually controls the diaphragm, and it impacts brainstem communication that coordinates all of those autonomic or automatic functions. Now, at Haven Family Chiropractic, we see this clinically every single day because children with difficult births are far more likely to develop colic, reflux, ear infections, and eventually chronic coughs and asthma. Now, the next step in this perfect storm pathway is early life stressors. Even with nervous system dysfunction at birth, the body's going to compensate temporarily. That's why some children seem totally fine initially, but then the stressors and the demands accumulate with antibiotic overuse that's disrupting the gut microbiome. It's affecting the immune system and our gut brain axis. The environmental toxins like mold and smoke and pollution create chronic inflammation within the body, and poor sleep starts preventing proper nervous system repair. Then there's the repeated infections that signal that the immune system cannot regulate properly. And finally, there's nutritional deficiencies that mean that the nervous system is lacking the needed building blocks for rest, recuperation, and healing. So it's the accumulation that matters. Prenatal stress, Birth trauma, antibiotics and medications, poor sleep, developmental concerns, and environmental irritants pile together until the nervous system reaches a tipping point. And that's the perfect storm. This is when symptoms appear because when their adaptive capacity starts to run out, they can't handle the stress. Now, for Bryce, that pattern looked like birth and birth trauma that created colic and the sleep disruptions, which led to chronic ear infections and repetitive antibiotics to then create a weak immune system that left her with a chronic cough that couldn't quite resolve. And this is the truth that's exactly incredibly hard to hear. Your child doesn't grow out of colic and reflux and ear infections. They grow into bigger and different challenges like a chronic cough, like asthma and allergies. The underlying nervous system dysfunction simply manifests differently as they grow, as they develop. Now, most parents are confused when I tell them that their child's chronic cough relates to the neck. Well, the cough is in the lungs, it's in the respiratory system. Totally, I get you. And this is why the upper neck is so critical. This is where everything starts to connect. This is where the brainstem meets our spinal cord, where the vagus nerve exits the skull, where structures that control breathing, heart rate, mucus production, and their digestion are all located. Now, when stress and subluxation exists here, it affects everything downstream. Now, most parents are familiar with standard medical options for chronic cough: acid blockers and antibiotics and antihistamines and decongestants and cough suppressants. And look, these things can be helpful in acute situations. We got to do what we got to do to help our kids, right? But they often prolong chronic conditions because they don't address root causes. These medications actually suppress the symptoms and suppress the immune system, and they don't restore function. So, cough suppressants stop that signal without fixing the dysfunction that created in the first place. Antibiotics disrupt the gut microbiome, which then weakens the immune regulation afterwards. The body actually stays stuck in this sympathetic fight or flight dominance, so that cycle continues. And this is why so many parents turn to drug free pediatric chiropractic care because it actually addresses the root cause, that neurological imbalance that precedes all of the then symptoms. And at Haven Family Chiropractic, we start with our in depth consult, the neurological examination to be able to understand stress on the system, to detect subluxation and the neuromuscular tension, because this exam actually includes the insight scans, measuring the nervous system and its function in ways that x rays and blood tests cannot even touch. And for most kids, depending on age, we use three specific tests. Surface EMG actually measures the muscle tension along the spine. Thermography detects temperature differences, telling us where the autonomic nervous system is unable to regulate function on the inside. And heart rate variability actually assesses that sympathetic parasympathetic balance within the body. Now, these tests, they're non invasive, there's no radiation, they're painless. Typically, they take 5 minutes to get done. And even our young children, sensory, autism, etc., tolerate them pretty easily. Now, the objective data shows us exactly where this dysfunction within the nervous system exists, and then we get to track that progress over time. So it's important to note that the insight scans don't diagnose medical conditions, right? It's a clinical tool that we use as neurologically focused chiropractic care. And how these scans help us track down the root cause of the nervous system dysfunction and dysregulation. Because our approach works to restore proper neurological function so that the body can heal from the inside out. If you're the parent of a child that's suffering from a chronic cough that's lasting 4 weeks or longer, it can be hard to know how to help because you've done the research. You've gone on the mom blogs, the Facebook groups, you've tried the remedies, you followed your doctor's orders, right? But your instincts have told you that something deeper is going on. And those instincts have been right all along because when conventional care provides temporary relief, when your pediatricians say it's just allergies or they're going to grow out of it, trust what you're seeing, trust what you're feeling. Because a chronic cough persisting for 4 weeks or longer signals underlying nervous system dysfunction that conventional diagnostics are missing entirely. And the sooner that you address the root cause, the faster that your child can heal. So don't let the quality of life continue to suffer when a solution actually exists. Your child's nervous system is stuck in a pattern, and that pattern can be released. And neurologically focused chiropractic care doesn't necessarily treat or cure that chronic cough. Instead, we identify where the stress is, where it's compressing the vagus nerve, where it's keeping the nervous system stuck in fight or flight. And then we restore proper function through gentle, specific, precise chiropractic care. And when that foundation is fixed, the body can finally heal from the inside out. And if you're ready to find the answers that actually address the root cause, check the link in our bio. Send our office a DM or schedule directly with us at the team in the Haven Family Chiropractic right here in Katy. And let's help your child and your entire family get the relief and the sleep that you all deserve.